And joining us for the whole next hour is Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Meuser. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. We appreciate you having us. And Congressman Meuser, we appreciate you coming into the studio to join us for this. But Congressman Davidson, I'm coming to you first. I want to get your reaction to the Hunter pardon after the current administration assured us that this was not going to happen.
Well, as you could tell from the repeated asks, people believed that it would happen the whole time. I think people would have been shocked if he didn't actually pardon his son. And I think people will be shocked if he doesn't pardon other Biden family members because, you know, when you look at the work the House Oversight Committee's done, the Judiciary Committee's done, the Ways and Means Committee's done to look at the tax evasion, you know, Hunter Biden pled guilty to charges that could put him in jail for 17 years on tax evasion, and that avoided prosecution for the most serious offenses. You know, Donald Trump was right over the target. You go back to 2014, and then it's like, shouldn't somebody look into this? And they impeached him for it. So when Donald Trump asked the right questions, it activated the left's long march machine where they took over every institution they could use to wield as a weapon against Donald Trump and anyone that would threaten essentially the Biden crime family operation.
Congressman Meuser, now lawmakers have indicated, and they've been very clear, your colleagues, that the pardon will not end the investigation into the president's son. How is that going to work in light of this pardon?
Well, you know what? We represent the people, and the people haven't pardoned him. We're going to continue the investigation because people expect accountability. No one is truly above the law. And so Jamie Comer and his team and Warren Davidson and others will continue this. And it's not going to take any focus off of the priorities, right? We're going to strengthen the economy. We're going to strengthen our national security. We can do all this. We're going to have one committee, however, that will continue to bring accountability. You know, this whole thing is just another chapter in the Biden family book of profiles and corruption. I mean, it's just awful. And the lies that took place leading up to this is not what pardons were designed for at all, right? They were designed for accountability and to expunge after someone's paid some penalty and some price along the way. That's what the founding fathers had in mind. But they didn't expect a president that apparently is not of sound mind and character.
And a president's son who hasn't paid for anything.
Nothing. His entire life. I mean, he's never, you know, this is the guy that is the poster child of liberal privilege in America.
Poster child of how somebody becomes that way too, perhaps, right?
Yeah,
no penalties whatsoever along the way.
Exactly. I want to pivot here, though, gentlemen, to the DOGE agency that is going to be headed by Elon Musk. Speaker Johnson said on Thursday that the agency on government efficiency is going to bring about a lot of change. Congressman Davidson, do you expect, what do you expect in terms of cuts here and any other changes that you think we will see with this DOGE effort?
Well, I'm excited about it because they're two very capable leaders, very proven leaders, and it's drawn a lot of attention. And I think that's what it's needed. You have to change the mind of the public. I mean, the reality is I wish we had one party that was actually for a smaller, more accountable government. Republicans generally campaign that way, but we didn't get $36 trillion in debt because both parties do agree on the spending. That's the problem. If we had one party that really pushed for smaller, more accountable government, when you have times like this, you would actually get a smaller government. And I think that's the challenge for DOGE. Can we actually break through the momentum? There's previous reports like Simpson-Bowles. They were great reports. They charted a path that could have put Social Security and Medicare on sound footing, but Congress ignored them. So the challenge really for the DOGE team, for the Trump administration, and frankly for Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune is to actually do the things. The knowledge is already there, and that was highlighted when Musk and Ramaswamy came and talked to our colleagues in the House this week. You know, people came forward with all kinds of ideas. Lots of us have had bills for years that we've been trying to put pressure on this. It's how do you break through the momentum? And a big part of that is these four-corner deals that don't really reflect the will of the body, but you don't want to shut the whole government down. So the status quo just keeps going on and on. So hopefully they can break the momentum.
Congressman, I don't know. We had a former president who said he wouldn't mind shutting down the government if it meant less spending. So, you know, certainly the machine is revving up. As you mentioned, you got to be able to break through. You got to cut through the minutia. But Congressman Meuser, are you at all concerned, just quickly, we got about 20 seconds, that, you know, government cuts could go too far under Doge. Is that an issue?
We're going to bring a scalpel, not a hatchet to this. We had a meeting the other day that Warren was referencing with Vivek and Elon Musk, and it really got to the point everybody in the room was just shaking our heads at the places that we can really reduce, and the waste, abuse, and fraud, and the overcontracting, and so many other areas that can be reduced.
Thank you.
Responsibly.
All right, stay with us, Congressman, because you're going to be joining us for the rest of the hour. Congressman Warren Davidson, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
They are going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect
You were not.
for a Secret Service
that's a bunch of
member
horse hockey.
that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you were trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, that I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
And you are out of
Gentlemen.
line.
Committee will come to order. I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that
No,
day?
I wasn't. I was there representing
Mr.
the
Chairman,
United
I'm
States
just
Secret
asking you yes or
Service,
no.
sir.
Mr. Fallon, your
and
time's
did not
expired.
affect protective
You know
operations.
why you were
time's
there?
expired.
Because you wanted to be visible, because you were auditioning for this
I was
job
there to
that
pay
you're not gonna
respect for a
get
fallen
till
member of
January
this
20th.
agency.
You endangered
You are
President
out of line,
Biden's life,
Congressman.
Vice President
You are out of
Harris's
line.
life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a
Chairman.
radio with
Mr.
you?
Fallon,
Did
your
you wear a
time
vest?
has
Did you have a
expired.
weapon?
Mr.
No.
I did.
It's
Did not
expired.
affect protective
You
operations.
know why you were
Time's
there?
expired.
Because you wanted to be visible, because you were auditioning for this
I was
job
there to
that
pay
you're not gonna
respect for a
get
fallen
till
member of
January
this
20th.
agency.
Wowee.
Yeah, that was heated. It's almost like Parliament.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this reminds me of our government at home in Australia.
100%.
And look, that was Texas Congressman Pat Fallon and Acting Director of the Secret Services, Ronald Rowe, getting into a rather large shouting match at a congressional hearing about how the Secret Service had stepped up their security measures following the July 13th attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, for more on these fireworks, let's bring in former Special Assistant to President Trump and former Director of Strategic Communications for Trump Pence 2020, Mark Lotter, former Trump spokesperson Liz Harrington, and, of course, Congressman Dan Meuser, who is still with us here in studio. Thank you for coming back to us, Mark and Liz. I'm going to come to you first, Mark. Congressman Fallon said that Rowe was front and centre at the 9/11 event, vying to become the permanent Secret Service director, and then in turn jeopardising the safety of those that should be protected. What did you make of that exchange, and is the congressman's assessment correct?
Well, clearly, and I know Congressman Fallon very well, and he is a very passionate fighter. He is a warrior, and he definitely has some issues with the Secret Service leader. And calling him out for the reasons why he was there is entirely appropriate. And whether the Secret Service agent liked the questioning or not, he has a responsibility to answer what was his role there in that moment where he's standing basically behind the president and the vice president during the 9/11. Was he there to protect them? Was he there to honor those who fell on 9/11? And yes, it got testy, but that's what congressional hearings are about, asking tough questions and forcing the people who are in leadership to answer.
Congressman, those are your colleagues. They were pretty fired up for sure. Now, the Secret Service has come under a lot of scrutiny ever since the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Do you think there have been enough appropriate steps taken since the Butler assassination attempt to actually beef up the security detail around Donald Trump and other officials that are protected under the Secret Service?
Yeah, TW, I'll tell you, I was in Butler on July 13th, and that scene was a mess. There were tremendous failures that took place. I think everybody recognized that. The aftermath of the original Secret Service director, Cheadle's, was awful. She didn't speak to anyone, the press or the Congress, for nearly 11 days. And then Rowe came in, and his testimony, frankly, was horribly weak. It offered no details, and I'll never forget when he stated that we were supposed to have sympathy for him, that he hadn't slept in 17 days. I mean, too bad.
Yeah.
Right? And give us some answers. What failed? What's being fixed? Is President Trump being protected? And let's face it, there was another assassination attempt. Him standing there at the 9/11 ceremony, I think, was totally inappropriate. And as you can see, my friend Pat Fallon laid it out pretty clearly that he thought it was pretty inappropriate.
Very clearly, indeed. I want to pivot here, though. Trump's White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, is saying that President-elect will order all federal employees to return to the office and won't be able to work remotely. Liz, what's your opinion? Do you think it's about time people get back in the office, or is this the new norm?
Well, certainly it's been 4 years since COVID. You know, these aren't just any jobs, right? These are jobs that are supposed to be service to our country. Taxpayers fund them. You need to show up. I think this is a great move. This is another signal that needs to be sent to the vast bureaucracy that, you know, playtime's over. We need to fix our country and turn it around. And this kind of goes back to accountability, and like you were talking about in the last topic. Where's the accountability? We need this all throughout government. We need transparency, and we need hard work and merit, and that's what President Trump is going to bring back.
All right. Liz Harrington and Mark Lotto, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And Congressman, once again, please stick around.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
All right, now Pete Hegseth may be facing an uphill battle to be confirmed as Secretary of Defense, but President Trump has made it clear he is standing behind his nomination. We'll break down the latest in that.
How's it going with Trump right now? Is he so far standing by you, and have you spoken to him?
I spoke to him this morning, Megan. I mean, he's amazing. He's a fighter. He's been through this himself, and he told me the last thing he said to me, well, two things he said to me when I left his office when he chose me was, well, besides what he said about being a warfighter, we can get into that, was you're going to need to be tough as shit. You're going to need to be tough as shit.
That was Pete Hegseth speaking with Megyn Kelly on her podcast this week. And as of late, it appears Trump's pick to be the next Secretary of Defense is facing an uphill battle. But Donald Trump posting yesterday on Truth Social that he is standing behind his pick.
For more, let's welcome in Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Meuser. Now, you saw the post from the president there, and is he all in on Hegseth or not? What do you think?
I believe he is. I don't think Donald Trump says anything that he doesn't fully believe.
It's a good point.
Yeah. You know, we've all known Pete Hegseth from his broadcasting and all TV personality. We met with him, and I've met him several times in the past. He met with our conference a few days ago, and he was. We were a little. I'd say not critical, but we were questioning. Right? We're questioning. That's what this whole process is about. Yeah. And he was very impressive. He laid out what the priorities were: efficiency, military readiness, refocus of priorities. And he's got the energy. He's certainly a combat veteran. Our commander-in-chief has faith in him. That's what this nomination process is all about.
Now, I know a lot in the media are saying it's an uphill battle. I'm not sure. My inside sources say something different. I don't think it's quite as tough as maybe some are saying. I mean, when you talk to senators one-on-one, I think the president and most of his nominees, including Hegseth, have the support of most senators, I think, moving forward so far. What do you think?
I think you're right, TW, including like Mark Wayne Mullen, for instance. Yeah. He was in the conference with us, Senator Haggerty. I mean, the list really goes on of those who have good reason to support the president's choice for confirmation. So we're going to see. We're going to go through this nomination process.
The process.
So far, there's nothing at all that will disqualify. I mean, he had an issue that was settled, and it's certainly not disqualifying whatsoever. And his merits far outweigh his negatives.
Well said.
But Congressman, Trump has also been mulling Ron DeSantis, Florida governor, for this position as well. Why would he say that if he was all in on Hegseth?
Well, I'm not sure he said it. If he did, I didn't hear that. I know DeSantis has been in discussions with the transition team, and I'm not sure exactly for which position. But let's face it, right? You have Plan A, and you gotta plan for Plan B as well, if in fact those discussions are taking place.
I mean, I consider really, you think about sticking to this, kind of confirmation process and appointees. I think Trump is assembling a dream team here. I mean, you think about, we think about Elise Stefanik, and we even think about, others that are going forward. Now, I know Tulsi Gabbard seems to be getting a lot of attention, as well as maybe someone that may have some challenges getting over the line. What are your thoughts about those appointees and others maybe?
Well, I think they're very strong. Marco Rubio, I know very well. Elise Stefanik, Pam Bondi, and truly the list goes on. Yeah. Howard Lutnick in Commerce. So it's a real good team of not just loyal, but smart, aggressive cabinet members that are going to drive the president's agenda. That's crucial. right? As we're doing these things with DOGE and efficiencies and restructuring of government and in an urgent manner, growing the economy, lowering costs, bringing inflation down, bringing world stability, closing the border. That's a big agenda of some big macros. So you got to have people like this that are going to be persistent. Because I'll tell you what, the bureaucracy is tough to break. If you don't have a cabinet secretary that's committed to doing it, it really doesn't happen. The swamp is thicker than we even imagine it to be. So I like his picks.
It's a dream team.
Even a Tulsi Gabbard, she's tough. She's been through. She's transitioned, right? She was a Democrat. But she's a patriot. She's a veteran. Very, very smart. Charismatic.
Let's be clear. I don't mean to cut you off. Let's be clear about transition. She transitioned from a Democrat to a Republican. We want our viewers to be clear about that, but I know we're short on time. We got to go. Thank you so much.
TW. All right, thanks.
All right, Congressman, stick with us again. But the suspect in United Healthcare CEO shooting is still at large. Police believe he has left New York City, though, and we're going to have the latest for you on that next. The manhunt continues. The suspect wanted for the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is still at large as the FBI assists with this nationwide search. Police are learning more about the suspect's movements leading up to the fatal shooting, having arrived in New York City 10 days prior. Now, police have been able to recover what they believe to be the suspect's backpack found in Central Park. For more on this, we're going to welcome in former NYP detective Michael Sapriconi and Detective Sergeant of Danbury Police Department John Krupinski, as well as Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Meuser, who is back with us again as well. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this. Sergeant Krupinski, I'll come to you first. We don't have a name of the suspect yet, but there is this photo here showing him unmasked with that big charming smile on his face.
Terrifying.
And now the backpack has been found that looks to be exactly his in the area that he fled through. Do you think we can find DNA results from this backpack, and what will they help with?
I'm going to go on a limb and say, based on what I've seen reported, that I believe they already have probably DNA on this. As far as the investigation goes, they have some pretty clear things that you would want in an investigation. I believe they probably have fingerprints off of some of the items that he discarded. Fingerprints, DNA, and a great photo. That's a pretty good start to identify somebody. Those are the top three that you'd want. Some facial recognition will probably come into this now that they have. We've seen the media pictures, but I'm sure that they have a much clearer and better picture that they're using for investigative purposes on that.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, this question's for you. The suspect was seen entering a bus station after the killing. Where does that really lead the investigation now? Where are we? What can we expect in the days to come?
Well, it's making it a wider crime scene, TW, and that's a big deal. We want the biggest crime scene possible, and then we want to narrow it down as we move forward. So we may have a name. They haven't given us a name, but that doesn't mean they don't have a name. DNA, you have to have something in the system to match that DNA. So that's tough and difficult. But I think we're moving in the right direction. You know, we want to build a thorough case so we can get it to the prosecutor as a strong case.
Congressman, this does look like a targeted shooting. There were the words delay, deny and depose written on the bullets, alluding to the fact that this could be a disgruntled, someone disgruntled over a claim that wasn't paid. What do you think of this?
You know, it could also have been a ruse to throw off the idea of what the actual motive was. I mean, it's certainly an odd situation. He came into town several days ago, knew where the United Healthcare CEO was heading, had his escape route planned, and yet an hour before the shooting, you see him with a big smile on his face. So, so that doesn't really look like someone who's there for themselves, right? And again, I'm just over speculating, Detective. You would.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. One thing that we haven't really seen much in the media, but this is still just a regular homicide investigation. Okay, he happened to be a CEO. There happened to be some other, but a routine homicide investigation, we still go through the same steps that we would normally go through in any other homicide investigation. You're looking for that means, motive, opportunity, motive here. One of the problems is, and I would agree with you, that, you know, it could have been used as a ruse. Maybe there are some other aggravating circumstances we're not aware of that investigators haven't let out to us yet. But we have to do this by the numbers and go through all the steps.
Good point. John, question for you. This is not a ruse. We've seen on video that the suspect knew how to use the gun. Does that tell us anything? What does that mean? I know the media's made some big deals out of that. For Mike, I'm sorry, that's for you, Mike.
No, it's okay, TW. We can teach anybody how to pull a trigger and use a gun. So I don't think that makes him a professional hitman. By far, he's not, by all the things he's done. But as the sergeant said, we need to look at this as an open case, a big deal. This could be a domestic situation. This could be a problem with an employee. That very much could be a ruse with the writings on the bullet casings. So any detective is going to look at this in a whole big picture and not narrow in on one possible motive. So I'm sure when this is finally solved, and that will be soon, I hope, we're going to see that this may have gone in a different direction.
All right, I think we do have to leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us and for your insight today. I really appreciate it. Michael Sapriconi, John Krupinski, your expertise was invaluable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Christmas is just around the corner, and despite the high prices under the Biden administration, new data shows Trump supporters are the ones driving up the sales this holiday season. We'll have more on that. Whilst Americans are still feeling the effects of the out-of-control inflation we saw over the past 4 years, it seems like some are willing to splurge this Christmas in anticipation of the return of President Donald Trump. A CNBC report showed a stark difference between shipping orders in red states versus blue states, with Trump-supporting areas showing the largest drive in sales.
No surprise there, but for more, let's welcome in President of Walser Wealth Management, Rebecca Walser, as well as Chief Economist and Global Strategist at Euro-Pacific Asset. I'm sorry, and we're going to start with, also we have in studio Congressman Dan Meuser. Peter, we're going to start with you. The largest increases came from Iowa and North Dakota, where shipments rose by nearly 350%. Why do you think Trump supporters are so ready to spend this holiday season?
Do we have Peter Schiff with us? No, we don't. All right, we apologize for that.
We'll throw that to you then.
That's too bad. I love Peter.
Yeah,
I wanted to hear what he was going to say. So I wasn't exactly listening to you. The question is, what is going on? Why are the red states more
outperforming blue states?
Absolutely.
When it comes to sales?
And so what we're seeing is, since the Trump election, a Trump bump. Like there's enthusiasm that this is going to be the president that can actually turn this economy around. You see the CEO survey, the CFO survey. Everyone is a lot more upbeat and positive, TW. So that is why we think yes. Now the blue states are probably still they've got a lot of policies, they've got a lot of taxes, they've got a lot of things that are still keeping them repressed, and that's a problem.
So are you telling me my wife's reason for going out and shopping while we're here in New York City is because of Donald Trump?
Absolutely, I can use it all you want, girl. Use it. Trump, Trump, Trump.
Several retailers now have Black Friday going on for the whole season now, and trying to reel in some of the inflation-weary customers that we are having. But it seems like the only one of those initiatives, it's not really working. Target, which focused mostly on deals at its brick-and-mortar locations, but not necessarily online. We saw sales decreasing last year, whilst Walmart, focusing on online deals, managed to rake in 3% more in sales. So, Congressman, do you think we see this shift towards online shopping continue?
Yes. Now, on the same note, there's great optimism due to the idea that taxes are going to remain competitive. They're not going to go up. Capital gains won't be taxed at the levels that Harris and Biden stated we're going to. Regulations. I mean, there's so many positive things that are going to happen in our economy. And it's virtually a certainty we're going to put these things through. So now online is a phenomenon that's continued to advance. Companies like Walmart and others are, of course, engaged in that far more than they were in the past. And the companies that haven't modernized in that way, they're suffering some. But I will tell you, even though the numbers are up by about $3 billion versus Black Friday last year, factor in over the 4-year period 20% inflation, right? So $70 billion 4 years ago with the inflation is $84 billion, and the sales are nowhere near that. So there's more dollars being spent, but not as many goods being delivered.
All right, I think we've got Peter Schiff back in with us now. Peter, I want to shift now to Bitcoin, which we know jumped to $100,000 for the first time ever after President-elect Trump picked crypto advocate Paul Atkins to lead the Securities and Exchange Commission. Peter, how much do you expect the crypto price to rise under the Trump administration?
Well, eventually I expect the price to fall. I don't know how much higher it's going to rise based on all the rumors regarding the U.S. establishing a so-called strategic Bitcoin reserve. I don't expect that to actually happen. I see very little support for such a reserve, and it would not be the right policy for the United States. It'd be highly inflationary. I disagree with the comments made by Fed Chair Powell that Bitcoin is digital gold. I agree with Alan Greenspan's comments that it's fool's gold, that it's based on nothing more than the greater fool theory. It has nothing in common with gold. I think it's a mistake for the U.S. to be promoting Bitcoin or crypto or encouraging businesses or more capital investment in this area. It comes at the expense of investments that we need to make in the actual productive part of the economy. You know, if Trump wants to make America great again, we need to manufacture real things. We can't squander our wealth on Bitcoin.
That's an interesting perspective.
I see you nodding along, Rebecca, so I must get your opinion on this.
Yeah, well, Peter's a big gold bug, as I am as well. And the fact is that Gary Gensler has basically is stepping down, and that is why we're getting a pro-crypto SEC chairman, where Gary Gensler was attacking it. So that's why you're seeing such a big shift to the upside. Also, Senator Loomis did introduce a bill in July that basically does establish $1 million Bitcoin U.S. reserve to pay off our debt. That doesn't make any sense. I'm the same framework as Peter. I do think that it is an asset play, but it is a really strategic risk asset. It does not have any proof of concept through a depression, a recession. And so I agree with Peter that this is still unproven and definitely should not be calling it digital gold, because gold has been the currency transition enabler throughout the entire written time of history. So don't be calling it digital gold. You're sending a message to people that it's absolutely something they can invest in with all confidence, and that's just not the case.
Well, certainly we know this week President Trump tapped former advisor Peter Navarro to serve as the administration's senior counselor for trade and manufacturing. Congressman, this one's for you. What do you think Navarro offers to the White House?
He offers quite a bit. As a matter of fact, when he was in the White House, the first administration, I had the opportunity to work with him on a trade work group that the president brought me in on. He's tough on trade, yet on the same note, it's about fair trade and free, but primarily fair. And the whole idea is on any sort of tariffs is reciprocity. That's the goal. The goal is certainly to make our goods and services as competitive overseas as many of our competitors are, opponents, even adversaries such as China, are here in the United States. And we're going to fight that. We're not going to be a martyr nation. We're not going to put our manufacturing below those of overseas importers to the United States. So I think he's going to be great. He's a really smart guy. I know him, and he's going to follow the lead of the president's plans.
I'm hearing a theme here from all three panelists. We need to bring manufacturing home, and there actually is a place for Bitcoin, but we may not call it digital gold yet.
Yeah, a smart guy that was in jail, by the way. So let's think about that too. Like, how's that going to impact his policies? I love it.
Good point.
I do have to quickly go, though, guys. We do have to run to a hard break. Rebecca, Peter, Congressman Meuser, thank you all so much for your input.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, we'll be right back. You're watching Wake Up America Weekend only on Newsmax. Welcome back. Now, after the jury said they were unable to reach a unanimous vote, a judge has dismissed the second-degree manslaughter charge in the trial of Daniel Penny. This now leaves the jury to deliberate on the charge regarding negligent homicide for the chokehold death of Jordan Neely, which could carry up to 4 years in prison. For more on this, let's welcome in distinguished university professor at Touro University, Thane Rosenbaum, and former prosecutor and constitutional law attorney Amir Benno. Gentlemen, good to see you again. Pleasure to see you as well on Friday night or Thursday night, whatever.
It was Thursday. Thursday night, yeah, anyway. The holiday party.
Yeah, but Thane, walk us through what happened here in this Daniel Penny case. Is this a win for either side?
Sarah, before I do, can I just thank you for what you said about Omer Nutra? I thought that was very compelling, and it says a lot about our network and what we stand for, and you said it so beautifully. Well, you know, Daniel Penny was charged with manslaughter, and the jury was deadlocked, and many people who thought, how could this even be a question? The fact that they the jury wouldn't, wouldn't be able to arrive at a verdict on manslaughter, suggested that some people believed that he should have been convicted for the killing on the subway train. The concern here is that there is now a lesser charge that the judge is saying, all right, you couldn't bring back the bigger charge on manslaughter. Let's go to criminal negligence. I don't think criminal negligence is appropriate here, Sarah, as well. But it has a bad look. You know what it looks like? It looks like saying, a white man killed a dark-skinned person, and somebody's got to pay the price for that. It doesn't make a difference what the facts are. In fact, apparently one of the jurors was stuck on that idea that in the end, it really doesn't matter. Even a medical examiner didn't care what the facts are. So it has a bad look. It's like saying, look, the judge could have dismissed both charges and called it a complete mistrial, but he's basically saying, go back and bring something back that we can use here to punish him in some fashion.
Such a good point. Now, Thane, you brought up criminal negligence, that it is, we learned this in Law School 101, criminal law, that it is the lesser of the two charges. Amir, what's going to happen on Monday when the jury returns? Do you see them ruling on Monday? What's going to be their interpretation of what the judge's orders were?
Well, they're going to continue to deliberate. Now, the two charges, right? So they had manslaughter and you have the criminally negligent homicide. Then the manslaughter says that Daniel Penny was aware that what he did presented a risk of death, but he disregarded that risk. That was the case, that the charge that got dismissed. The one that remains, the negligence one, the negligent homicide, is he may not have been aware that there was a risk of death, but he should have been. So those are the two distinctions between the two. And the issue and the problem here, TW, with this is when the judge charged the jury, he's told them, you have to come to a verdict on that first manslaughter charge. You have to either convict or you have to acquit, and you have to be unanimous. And if you convict on it, then that's it. If you acquit, then you can consider the negligent homicide. So what happened? The jury took another route. They said, we can't agree. We deadlocked. So they never got through that threshold first gate to even get to the second question.
Such a good point.
And so the judge is now asking them, forcing them really, to deliberate on a charge that they have no authority to actually consider.
But Amir, I want to ask you a bigger question. I mean, aren't we really talking about the Good Samaritan law? Isn't that what's really on the decision block for the jury? What happens if he's convicted? What does that do for the Good Samaritan law long term for America, which is long-standing American precedent? What do you think happens to Good Samaritan law?
Well, people, are not going to come forward on the subway or in any public setting if they see people in distress to try to assist them, because they're going to risk being prosecuted themselves if, God forbid, things take a turn for the worse. So ultimately, this is going to have a very deleterious effect on encouraging people to help their neighbors.
Yeah. Let's turn now, though, to President Joe Biden pardoning his son, Hunter. He was granted a blanket pardon for any offence of the past 10 years. Thane, walk us through this. What do you think about these blanket pardons?
Well, as you know, Sarah, in the United States, we don't punish people for thought crimes. And it does seem like President Biden just believes in thought crimes, to say, we're not even concerned about what he may have been charged with. Anything that he could be charged with, even if we don't know what even we can conceive of it, needs to be covered. That's the same reason that you're hearing now about this concept of preemptive pardoning, right? Pardoning people that also haven't been charged with a crime that they fear might be charged during a Trump administration. Again, thought crimes. Yeah. Normally, also in the United States, we don't pardon you unless you've been sentenced to something, right? Or you've served some time, right? That didn't happen here. He pleaded guilty, but he never got sentenced, which is why they did this in order to establish that Hunter Biden is not a felon, because he was never sentenced to a crime. So I think that's one of the reasons why they rushed to do this before the judge in Los Angeles sentenced him. But one last quick thought. I think President Biden was worried about his own younger brother. He was worried about the other Biden children, all of whom, including himself, were tied to the money that Hunter obtained for the family. And this essentially, I think, takes that off the table. Because if you can't prosecute Hunter for the money, how he received it, I don't see how you can prosecute the others for how they received it.
Such a good point. We've got about 20 seconds, Amir. I want to get you in. Do you see any other, controversial pardons coming out from Biden on his last few hours in the White House? I mean, we've seen the Hunter Biden one. That didn't take anyone by surprise. But do you think there are any others? I see on social media a lot of names being considered for pardon or clemency. You see any coming down the pike?
Yeah, I see there being a lot more pardons, and I do see, to Thane's point, Jim Biden and others being pardoned for these sort of preemptively for these sort of selling your access. Yeah, I see that Liz Cheney, the Adam Schiff, Mark Milley, Anthony Fauci. I think all of them could be preemptively pardoned, and I think we should expect to see that before the end of his term.
Biden never fails to disappoint us. It's amazing.
That is crazy to me, the idea of it. I've never heard of that before. But anyway, we do have to leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Thane Rosenbaum and Amir Benno, always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, brother.
Happy holidays, guys.
You too.
W. Bush was in the White House. I knew that if I had a beer with the guy, I would like him. I knew it. And so I didn't want to have a beer with him because I had things to say about George W. Bush that were critical of him. If I had sat down with the guy, I would feel maybe I can't anymore. You see, that's my problem with Morning Joe.
Joy Behar, always the optimist.
Yeah, raise your hand if you want to have a beer with Joy Behar. I mean, like, who in the world even, wants to have, I don't know, you'd have to be drunk already to have a beer with Joy Behar. I mean, give me a break.
Congressman, what are your thoughts on that kind of comment? Like, this is divisive language. Democrats should be able to sit with Republicans and have a beer.
You would think so, and you would think more information, the better. That show is not often watched, but it's often quoted, and we understand that Joy Behar, you told me, used to be a stand-up comic. I don't know if sometimes they're just trying to provide shock value, so they are in fact quoted. But let's face it, they above any other show, probably helped President Trump win with that infamous question. What would you do differently than the Biden administration? And the infamous answer, nothing comes to mind. So I appreciate them.
Unbelievable. I'm old enough to remember when The View used to be good, and I'm old enough to remember when Joy Behar used to be funny. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. All right. Congressman Dan Meuser, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure having you in studio.
Likewise, Sarah. Thank you so very much. TW, it was great being with you.
Well done, sir. Thank you.
Right,
thanks, Sarah.